So, Washington. We left, as you know now, St. Louis late, and then to get from St. Louis to DC, we got 2 trains. One to Chicago, that's right, in the opposite direction, and then from Chicago to DC. It seems illogical, but it's actually the most direct way to go if you're using the train line or other kind of transport systems that are not flying or driving yourself. Anyway, so we left late, we got in late, so we thought we'd have about 5 hours in Chicago to maybe see our thing, but we didn't see anything. To Union Station in Chicago about 3 hours late, and so we haven't seen anything of Chicago except for this and a food court and a toilet. I mean, this hall is very nice. The food court was a food court, and the toilet was worse than the food court. Then that was an overnight train trip from Chicago to DC. So when we did get in and check into the hotel, it was a pretty easy night because we'd been on the train and we slept a little but not a lot. I was still in a very deep listening mode to Jeff Buckley because because we'd had a lot of travel on buses and trains. I was obviously listening to a lot of music, and as we approached the Mississippi, I don't know, I just felt like listening to Jeff, and you can probably fill in the blanks, and listen to Grace a lot. And if you haven't ever listened to it before, you 100% should. It's still one of my, after all this time, still one of my top 10 Deserted Island albums. That if I could only have 10 albums, that one would have definitely still be there. Anyway, I was very deep into Jeff mode. We got some takeout and did some washing because there was an on-site washing machine, which was very handy and was actually a bit of a relief because then we didn't have to go trooping around with all of our stuff trying to find somewhere to do washing. And we also watched the Cowboys and Buccaneers game with some actual real interest, and I think it might be the first time I've ever really properly watched a game. I didn't watch every second. I don't have that sort of attention span, but we did watch it, and we were definitely rooting for Dak and the Cowboys, and they won. So the next day, we did eventually find, I think, a hop on hop off. I might talk about this in another video, I can't remember now. And on that day, we did a bit of a lap to see what was around. Well, that was the plan. And we had to just get off the bus that we were on because it was really cold. Had planned to ride it the whole time, round one loop to get a sense of where things were and then decide when to get off. But it goes for like an hour and a half and it was already freezing. So we're hoping the next bus is warmer because the first bus we were on was warm, but then we got booted off. Anyway, here we are at the Lincoln one, and you can see Washington's monument. Yeah, as you can see, it was cold, so we got off it because it was too cold to stay on there. And then, so we visited the Lincoln Memorial and then went to the Martin Luther King Memorial. And like I said, it was around his birthday, which is on the 15th, so there was other flowers around there. And there's a very different feel actually between those two memorials. There's a quietness at the MLK one, and I don't know if that's all the time or just the time that we were there, but there's not, I mean, when you're in the actual room where Lincoln is, it's quiet. Well, not room, you know, the big amphitheatre thing. Not amphitheatre because you don't want to amplify the sound. It's quiet in there. but there's all talking around it. But at the Martin Luther King, people kind of whispered to each other, another kind of self-regulating function. And then, to be honest, it was a bit of a miserable day. It just rained, so we didn't really do a lot, actually. I just got back from the Minnesota game about, I don't know, 10 minutes ago. It was a pretty good game, actually. The Wild won, which was pretty good. To see Foligno in the human form, which was good. We're at Capital One now, hoping that we get to see Flower playing goal for the Minnesota Wild. Mum is just staring up at nothing. She doesn't even know. She's like, oh, this is a place. Anyway, we don't know yet if he's starting. So that'll be interesting. But either way, we'll get to see Ovi on his way, on his history-making path, which is great. And hopefully we'll get to see little Kirill get a goal. Kirill the Thrill. Let's head Flower first. I'm very excited. Flower's here. We still don't know if he's starting though. Little Kirill. Oh, and Luce over there. Woo. Did not get to see Flower play. Saw him in warm-ups and then at the end of the game, but he didn't start. That was always a risk though when we book the tickets, because you never know which goal he's going to be in. Which was a little bit disappointing, but it was still a good game.
Men on the ice, simultaneously 8:02, Wild color. 2 minutes for 2 men on the ice, simultaneously 8:02, minor to be served by number 36, Max Zuccarello.
I think that was the room next door. It was a weird grumbling sound. I don't know what that was. But anyway, it was the vibe was good, but definitely better at the Blues game. There's like that constant stimulation of that game. There's something going on all the time. The music's great and it's just pumping all the time. This game was a little bit more, I wouldn't say reserved, that's probably not the right word, but in comparison felt a bit like a notch down. Maybe it's because it's a Tuesday, maybe it's because it's the capital city and not the Blues city, I don't know. Anyway, today was a funny day. Got in yesterday and it was blazing sunshine, it was beautiful. And then today was just like grizzly and grey all day. And just was not feeling it, which is strange because you know when you're on holiday, you're like, how can you not be happy when you're on holiday? Because you're not always happy every day, that's why. So it was not the best day, not the worst day, because let's be honest, even a bad day on holiday is still a good day. But didn't really get to do some of the stuff I guess we thought we'd do. But anyway, got a couple of things to visit tomorrow, including the Library of Congress. And yeah, I guess we'll see how it goes. And then we leave here at 4 o'clock actually. So it's been a real flying visit to the old capital. Yeah, bye. Anyway, quick update. I thought we left Washington tomorrow at 4 o'clock. We do not. Leave the day after, because today is Tuesday, and the train that I'm catching doesn't leave here till Thursday, and I have accommodation tomorrow night here, and then accommodation on Thursday night in Pittsburgh. So I actually have a full day tomorrow of exciting things to do. So yeah. Anyway, it's pretty late and I'm glad I checked because I'm going to be packing all my shit up tomorrow and then checking out. So today actually was our real last full day in DC, not yesterday like I said it was. It actually, even though today when I was getting ready to go out, I was like, oh, I better get my hotel key out ready to check out. I was going to check out with just my backpack and leave everything else behind. But it was a much nicer day today. It was really sunny and quite pleasant actually. It's still cold, but not like it was cold yesterday. So first off went to the two Smithsonian museums today, and the first one was the National Museum of the American Indian, which I was very interested in going to for obvious reasons. I always wondered why it's called that, because I thought it was a bit weird, and when I was thinking about it, I would always, or like Googling it, I would always write in different names. But it's because the guy who collected a lot of the artifacts in there and then made a donation to the Smithsonian, said that they could have them, but under the proviso that they used the name of the museum that he had when he ran it in New York, which was a museum of the American Indian, which is why they call it now the National Museum of the American Indian. So the rest of the museum though is done kind of with a native perspective, and it was really interesting. Museum's quite pretty from the outside, and really architecturally amazing on the inside. There's, you know, this really big cabin, and it's got great acoustics, and we're lucky enough to see a gentleman there performing. He did some drum songs, which was really good, and talked a little bit about how you know, his culture is perceived in pop culture and popular references, and then what it's actually like. And then, you know, that was really interesting and really great. And like I said, the acoustics in there was so good. It was really great.
Fancy word dance song.
And so then we went around, and I'm imagining at some point I will figure out how to cut in some of the videos that I took today. I'm going to assume that I figured that out by now, and so they probably have come in, and maybe they're finished now. Did go to the cafe there and try the bison burger, and here's my review, I guess. So this is a bison burger, and we were just laughing that this tastes like beef, which I guess is probably what you would expect it to taste like. I mean, I don't really know. It's not really, I don't know. Maybe it's different if you eat a steak of it or something. I don't know. Also, there's heaps of bacon on it, and controversial opinion, I don't really think burgers need bacon. So, there. Anyway, it's alright. Chips are pretty good. And then, yeah, went on a guided tour, and that was actually when they took us really into the one about the Americans, which is really a lot about pop culture, about how Native people are perceived throughout all of America, how they're represented, and how they're represented, probably overrepresented in terms of marketing and stuff like that, even though they're quite a small percentage of the population, and the way that they're used in popular culture and, you know, marketing and that sort of thing isn't necessarily positive. It's a lot of stereotypical stuff. So yeah, anyway, it was good. It was a really good museum. Probably spent a few hours there, so that was really great. So after that, we went to the National Air and Space Museum. Both of these museums are Smithsonian museums, so they're both free to enter. The space one, you need to book a free ticket, so just make sure you've got a booking online and then you can go in. So there's two of these. I think one is in maybe Texas or maybe New York. I don't know where the other one is, but the one we went to was obviously the one in DC. It was pretty good. It starts, I think it goes, as we discovered, probably chronologically, starts with the Wright brothers, does all that sort of flight. But I wasn't really interested in that. I just wanted to look at the space stuff, so just went upstairs to look at space.
reached the whole world extended in the feet. It is one of the most
that was really good. Yeah, but it was at the end of it, we watched this video that was narrated by Neil Tyson deGrasse. Is that the name the other way around? Anyway, and it was really good, and it was about, you know, it was in the planetarium. It was really visually spectacular, even though I did feel a little bit sick watching it. Yeah, but it's just interesting, I guess, to think about like how insignificant we are when you look at the whole galaxy, our galaxy, then the universe and everything like that. But yeah, it was a really great museum too. Massive, barely, probably saw maybe like 15-20% of it, but definitely worth a visit. And yeah, the planetarium was cool, even though it was a bit sickening. Yeah, but it was just funny as well because, like I said, you're thinking about that insignificance, but then thinking about really how insignificant we might be as a planet or whatever, but how significant we are to each other individually. It's quite a funny, anyway, so it's a funny thing to think about. So tomorrow, Library of Congress, some other things around that capital area, and then train to Pittsburgh. On the final morning, we were going to the library, but we got there pretty early and we were like, you know, wanted some breakfast, so we went to another diner and got more diner experience. We just went and had a breakfast in here. There's a house cat. I don't know what its name is because it was written in Mandarin or something, but anyway, it has a chair at the bar, but it was very good. And again, I got to have a refilled cup of coffee, so I feel like I'm having that real diner experience. It's pretty good. Anyway, now we're actually really going to the library. Bye. Hello, pussycat. All right, so there you go. That was the diner. More free coffee refills. And it's not the fact that they're free that I like them, just to be clear. It's just the idea that someone walks around with a coffee pot and fills up your coffee. I don't know, it feels very American to me. We went to finally the Library of Congress, which has been on my bucket list for a very long time. And here it is, the Library of Congress. Or the outside anyway. This is a Jefferson one. Over here is the Madison building, and there's another one. I forget what it's called. I'm assuming it's got another presidential name. Anyway, here we are. Woohoo! So there is the Capitol, and here is the fancy front of the library, which we can't go in. We go in downstairs. Anyway, it's pretty actually. So now we are inside the Library of Congress, and this is the reading room for social sciences and humanities. So if I was doing any current research, this is where I would be. Except I think we all know I wouldn't actually be doing it here. I'd be dicking around at home somewhere, waiting till the last minute. Anyway, this is where they filmed National Treasure. Yes, and so you can see it was very beautiful, the reading room, and we were very excited to be in there. Yeah, and so that was DC. It was not a very long visit. It was a very long time to get there, to travel there, and it ends up being a reasonably long time to travel away from there on our way to Pittsburgh. But did go really to see the Wild play, and we went. We shoehorned this trip in because we were both going, no, it's fine. You know, we've got enough games. And then we were both like, wouldn't it be great though if we got to see Flower? So we really shoehorned this in an illogical way, because like I said before, there's that train line that kind of goes from like Boston all the way down to Orlando, and it goes through like New York and everywhere like that. If we were doing this in a more logical way, we probably would have done it like that. Anyway, we didn't do it in a more logical way. We followed the schedule, the hockey schedule, not the logical schedule, and we have no regrets. Well, I mean, yeah. So that was it. DC.